Inside Out, how are we feeling right now? We doing okay tonight? Okay, we've got a few woos right here. I hear it's exam week. Anyone got big exams this week? Anyone have an AP exam this week? Yes. Which one do you have? My man's excited about it. That was awesome. Man, I want to know. Here's what I want to know. First off, we haven't met. I'm Jordan. I've been here a lot, but if we haven't, I'm Jordan. If you're new around these parts, I am happy to be here with you tonight. Inside Out is the best place to be on a Sunday night. And here's what I want to know from you. Just shout it out to me and think it could be a show, it could be a movie, a sport. Just what are you geeking out on? Like, what's something that you could talk about forever? Your what? Your A-push exam. Okay, you can talk about his A-push exam. That's a good, what is it? Marvel, just Marvel. Any Marvel fans in the house? Anyone big on Marvel? Okay, great. What else? What's something you could just talk about for a long time? What was that? Yell louder. Batman. Okay, do we like the new one or the old ones? Who's Christian? Are we Christian Bale? Are we Robert Pattinson? Who's the better? They're different. They're different. Okay, what else? What can you geek out on? Anyone, what? Coffee. Anyone geek out on coffee? That's a good one. How about a sport? Is there a sport that you could just talk about forever? What? Okay, he says LeBron's the GOAT. That's a hot take over here. He says LeBron's the GOAT. We could talk about that for a long time. Here's the thing. I've got a million things. I love to just geek out on things. I love to I don't know a lot about a lot. I just know a lot about a few little things, and they tend to be really nerdy. Like this year, I got into Formula One racing because I watched the Netflix show. Has anyone seen that? It's the best. It's so fun. And I geek out on it, and I talk about it, and at the end of the day, it's like cars going vroom, vroom around a track, That's really it. But I could talk about it for so long because I love it. I think it's so cool to talk about, watch. I think it's just fun to follow. I know the names of these drivers. They're all 18 years old, and I'm obsessed with them for some reason. It's funny how we just geek out and we get to know things and we love certain things, whether it's baseball or basketball or it's LeBron specifically or whether it's your A-push exam that you could talk about. You probably don't love, but you could at least talk about it for a long time. Or it's Marvel and you could talk about all the different Marvel movies and who's in them. We geek out on these things. And we talk about them naturally. The things that you think about, the things that are on your mind are things that you naturally talk about with the people around you. And then this crazy thing happens, right? This crazy thing happens because we sit in church and you hear people say, you should talk about Jesus, right? And you're like, no. You're like, that is terrifying. Talk about Jesus at my school or with my friends or on my team? That's scary. For a million reasons, right? And you could probably name a bunch of them. This is totally normal. If you feel a little weird when people are like, you should share your faith. Well, that's okay. Because it's totally normal for us to feel some crazy fears around that. Maybe you feel like you're going to bring up Jesus with somebody and they're just going to come back at you with all these reasons why God isn't real and science has disproved him. And they saw a TikTok once, right? And it became the foundation of their entire belief system. Or maybe you think you're going to talk to somebody, but you're like, dude, they have seen me at my lowest and they're going to think I'm such a hypocrite if I start talking about Jesus right now because they saw what was going on last year, Or maybe you think you're going to talk to somebody and you're like, I might lose some friends if I start talking about my faith too much, right? That's what I felt when I was in school. I remember my youth pastor being like, you guys should go talk about Jesus. You should evangelize to your school. That's what you need to do. It's part of your faith. And I was like, dude, I worked really hard to make a few friends this year to have more than 0 this year. And I don't want to lose the 3 that I have when I start talking about church. It freaked me out. I was a little scared about sharing my faith. And if that's you tonight, if that's something that is just true for you tonight, that there's any sort of nerves, any sort of fear, any sort of uneasiness when we talk about sharing your faith, and I'm really talking specifically to people in here who are following Jesus. If that's not you in here, awesome. We're glad you're here. This is the best place to be in the world for everyone. But for people in here who are following Jesus, or for my seniors who are about to go off to college, or for anyone who are in spaces where you're not just surrounded by Christians all the time, we know that being bright with your faith, loud with your faith, being someone who is clearly into Jesus or with the people that you're around, that can be a little uneasy. Not if that has any sort of like nerves. If I say, go tell people about Jesus tomorrow, there's a little bit of nerves in you or a little bit of fear in you. And there's a story that I love, okay? And don't miss this Inside Out. It's so good. There's a story I love of two guys named Philip. Everyone say Philip. With some gusto, everyone say Philip. Thank you so much. That's A-Push, man. A-Push likes Philip. All right, how about Nathaniel? Everyone say Nathaniel. Thank you so much. Philip and Nathaniel, here's what's going on. This is John 1, okay? So it's literally the first chapter of the book of John. And right here in John 1, Jesus has just like started his public ministry, okay? So he's like 30 or so. And we don't really have that much about him, but from like the Christmas story of like him in the manger to like 30-year-old Jesus. He's just chilling, building houses for like 30 years. And then out of nowhere, he just pops onto the scene and he starts telling people to come follow him. And one of the people that he calls is a dude named Philip. Here it is. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee, which is a place. Finding Philip, he said to him, what? 2 words, follow me. And apparently Philip did. He said, all right, I'm going to follow Jesus. He makes this decision. We don't have a lot of the story. I bet you could write like a real book about what actually happened here if we filled in the lines. But something about meeting Jesus was powerful enough for Philip to drop everything, to drop his job, to drop relationships, drop his hometown, drop his house, and say, I'm going to go follow you, Jesus, wherever you go. That's what we're going to do. But he didn't know everything. He didn't have all the answers. Like, we don't see him be like, all right, well, Jesus, if we could work out all of the theology around this first, then I'll come follow you. And he doesn't say, if you tell me everywhere we're going, like if you could give me an itinerary, Jesus, of the places that we're going to go to, that would be great. And if we could do a few beach trips along the way, like, come on, that would be awesome, Jesus. So maybe we could work that in. No, he says, follow me. And Philip's like, all right, I'm going to follow him. But Philip doesn't just do that. Here's the awesome thing that Philip does. Philip has a friend named Nathaniel, and Philip says, oh my God, I just met God. This is crazy. I need to go tell my friend Nathaniel back in my town. Something about Nathaniel. There's something about him that Philip is like, I got to go tell that guy. So my dude Philip, he straps on the sandals, he hikes up his tunic, and he takes off running, and he goes and finds Nathaniel. I don't know what they wore. I'm just assuming, okay? He had the Jesus ones on, and he just took off. And here's what Philip says to Nathaniel. Philip found Nathaniel and told him, we have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph. Philip shows up to Nathaniel, says, Nathaniel, we found the guy. Like we found the Messiah. They'd been waiting on this Messiah. They knew because of their scriptures. We knew because all throughout the Old Testament, we read about God saying, I'm going to come back for my people, and I'm going to bring a Messiah into the world. And it became this, it was a story that you would have known, that both these guys would have known. But it would have been crazy to think that this is actually happening in their generation, in their decade, in their lifetime. And he says, we found him. We found the one who the prophets have been writing about. We found the one that Moses wrote about way back here in the Old Testament. He says he's here on the earth, and he's in Nazareth. Now, here's what you need to know about Nazareth. Nazareth is not it's not a capital city. And it's not a vacation destination. Nazareth is a little podunk, a little redneck, and there's not a whole lot. Like, you don't expect a king or queen or a ruler or a Messiah to come from Nazareth. This would be like saying Jesus of Gainesville showed up on the scene. You know what I'm saying? And you'd be like, okay, come on now. Sure. If I told you Jesus was in Gainesville right now, you'd be like, no. He went to New York first. He went to LA first. He went to London first. I don't know. He went somewhere else first. But Jesus shows up in Nazareth. And Nathaniel is confused. We know he's confused because here's what he says. It's awesome. He says, Nazareth, can anything good come from there? Nathaniel doubts. And this probably felt really deflating, right? If you're Philip and you just hinged your entire life on following this guy Jesus, and you just showed up to your friend and you're like, guess what? I have the best news ever. I met the Messiah. And your friend's like, no way. How could he come from Nazareth? That would feel like just popping a balloon, right? And you just out into the space, you know? But here's the beauty of what Philip does. He has this approach, and this is what, don't miss this. This is so good inside out. Because Philip doesn't come back at him and say, well, here's all the reasons that the Messiah could come from Nazareth. And if you turn to page 396, and he doesn't say, I can't believe you wouldn't believe. And he also doesn't just shy away and walk away and say, okay, yeah, cool. I'll go follow him by myself. Here's what he says. He says 3 words that you cannot miss. You ready? Come and see. Everyone say that with me. Come and see, said Philip. Come and see. Come and see for yourself, Nathanael. Come check it out. Here's what Philip did. He told Nathanael his story. He said, I found this guy. I'm following him. I've made the decision. I'm following Jesus. And Nathanael has some doubts. And instead of arguing or instead of walking away, instead of backing down, instead of losing his reputation, all that Philip does is just say, come check him out for yourself. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Come check him out for yourself. I don't know everything. Come check him out for yourself. I know this sounds so crazy. Come check him out for yourself. And that's what we can do with our faith too. Is we can take the pressure off of having to have every rebuttal ready, of having every word ready. We can take the pressure off of losing friends or whatever. And we can just say to people, hey, here's my story. And I think you should come check it out for yourself. Here's why I'm following Jesus. Here, I think you should come check it out for yourself. That's the line that we're sitting with today, and that's the whole point. And the thing that we need to know is that if you want to share your faith, if you're serious about sharing your faith, if that's something that you want to do in your life, the way to do it is to share your what? If you want to share your faith, share your story. Don't share a YouTube video. I mean, there are good and bad YouTube videos out there, but don't share your story. Your story is the thing that it's hard for people to argue with. Your story is the thing that's most impactful for other people. Share your story. And then say, come and see. Come check him out. Come check out Jesus. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy. I mean, it's going to sound crazy when you tell people, right? Like, we literally talk out loud and sing out loud to a guy that was on there 2,000 years ago. That's crazy. And we truly believe that guy died and kicked death in the teeth and raised back to life, and that he is God and he is sitting in heaven today and calling us to follow him. That is crazy. That's going to sound nuts to some people. There's no way to normalize that. But what you can do is say, I know it sounds crazy, but come and see for yourself. I know it sounds crazy, but this changed my life. Come check it out for yourself. There's a guy named Peter, and Peter writes about it. And here's what he says. You ready? He says, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for what is that word right there? Come on, with some gusto. Interactive show, inside out. What is that word right there? Oh, A-push is right. You're going to get a 5, dude. Is it still graded that way? Are there still 5s at the top? Okay. Things don't change. I took that exam 10 years ago. Let's not talk about that. The hope that you have. But do this with what? And gentleness and respect. You ever been to a sporting event and someone's outside yelling at people through a megaphone? Repent, sinners. They got the big sign up there. It's not Jesus. Peter's saying you don't have to do that. You just have to go show people the hope that you have and just be gentle and respectful when you do it. Value people, love people, and go share your story with them, and then be like Philip and just say, come on and check it out for yourself. Come on, see for yourself. Might it sound crazy? Yes. But I'm telling you, this approach of just sharing your story, this is the way to let God work through you to transform the lives of others. Because if you're following Jesus in here, I hope you know you have the greatest news in the world right there in your heart. You have what Peter calls the hope in your heart that this dark world is craving and they don't even know it. And if it feels like you might get judged a little bit, you just got to know that you have the hope in a Father who doesn't judge you but says, you're with me, come on, follow me. And if it feels like you have to know everything, you just got to know you have the hope in a Father that says, follow me before you actually know all the information about following him. Or if it feels like you need to have answers, if it feels like people know too much about your past, you have hope in the Father who says, I know your past and I'm still telling you, come follow me. You're in. Let's do this thing. And that is the best news in the world to me. And in the same way that you would share about anything else you love, a Marvel movie, LeBron James, Timothy Chalamet, whatever you love, Harry Styles, A-Push, whatever it is that you love, you can share your faith in the same way by just saying, here's my story, here's something I love, you should check it out for yourself. You should come with me to I.O., You should investigate the Bible for yourself. You should come to my group. You should come hang with us. Just get around us. I'll tell you more. But first, I'll just say, come check it out for yourself because it has changed my life. You know what I'm saying? If you want to share your faith, share your story. And I'll leave you with this. I get to work with a lot of college students every year. And I work with college students on how to share their own story. And I use this framework every year. And we also use this in baptism videos. So if you've been baptized here, maybe you probably know this framework too. But it's just a way to think about your story, a way to frame it up in your mind. If you ever want to tell somebody your story and you're like, I don't know, do I start at my birth? That was messy. Do I start where I start like actually having memories? Okay, that's different. Do I start in the 5th grade, 7th grade? I don't know the answer to that. But here's just a framework to help you maybe with your story. And it's just 3 parts. And I'd say the first is your life before your faith. What was life like before your faith? The second is the moment your faith became real for you. And then the third is your life with faith. Your life before your faith, the moment your faith became real, your life with faith. Here's what this looks like. This would look like saying, yeah, before I was following Jesus, my life was pretty whack. I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing. I was out in places I shouldn't have been. I felt like I didn't deserve his love, but man, I met Jesus. I don't know, maybe you came to I.O., maybe you went to I.O. Daytona, I don't know where you were, maybe it was somewhere totally separate of Inside Out, but man, Jesus became real to me at one point, and it changed my life, and now I have this relationship with him, and I just feel like he's just looked at me and said, you're worthy of my love, and that's awesome. And now I have this life of faith that is not perfect. I still struggle all the time. But man, I have Jesus. I have a hope that is in me that is so powerful and so crazy. And I'm just telling you because it's changed my life. Or maybe it's simple. Or maybe it's like, hey, I grew up in a Christian home. This is my story. I was a pastor's kid, okay? I was in church 8 days a week. I grew up in the Christian home. But man, at some point, I had to decide if this was my parents' faith or my faith. And I decided it was going to be mine. And that I was going to walk with Jesus. And then the life afterwards has been rocky at times, but man, it's been so good as I've learned with Jesus to step into his way, to own his way, to learn from him. Hey, before my faith, there was a lot going on. I had a lot of struggles. I had a lot of trials. I had things happening in my life. My family was falling apart. And honestly, after, it's still falling apart. But I tell you what, when my faith became real with Jesus, I had a hope to persevere through it because I know that one day everything's going to be made right and made whole. See how that works? It's just a way to share your story, whatever your story is. And there are as many stories in here as there are people. But it's a way to start and tell someone, hey, this is what happened. Come check it out for yourself. So we're about to go to our groups in a second. And I love our groups a lot. Anyone love your group? Any big fan of your group? Yes. A-Push loves his group, man. And here's the thing. Your group is an awesome place to start to process. What is this story like? It's an awesome place to say, here's some people that I really want to tell this to who I've been friends with for a long time, but I just kind of secretly slip away to Inside Out and don't tell them about it. Or maybe it's a place to say, I've been praying for this person, or I want to be more bold, and you guys get to learn to do that together. And I love that so much. So we're going to pray. We're going to our groups in a second. It's going to be awesome. Here we go. Jesus, thank you so much for who you are and for the light that you have put in us. And I pray that we would be what you call a city on a hill, just people that aren't hidden, but are instead out in the dark world showing them who you are, what you've done in our lives, and inviting them to come and see it for themselves. It's in your name, Jesus. Amen.